My name is Jerry Van Marter. I was born in Tacoma, Washington. I was ordained to the ministry in September of 1971, and over the course of the next 17 years, served 4 small urban congregations in the San Francisco Bay Area. I served those congregations at a time when what they call white flight had occurred. Wrenching times for a lot of those people to see neighbors that they had had for a lifetime flee to the suburbs. So to just try and figure out how to do ministry in situations that were changing so dramatically. It was both a challenge and a great opportunity. Most of the people that left were people who could afford to leave, and so these churches were faced with many fewer resources to try and do ministry. And so they were small congregations grappling with huge buildings. So it was a tremendous time of opportunity, ferment, frustration, challenge, and great fun. How did I go from being a pastor to the Presbyterian News Service? We got to pick a class that we wanted to take that was not part of the standard curriculum at the middle school I went to. And I just, for the heck of it, picked a journalism class and got hooked. And wrote for my school paper in middle school. I wrote for my high school paper. I wrote for my college newspaper. While I was in seminary at San Francisco Theological Seminary, my senior year field work assignment was in the Synod office, the old Synod of the Golden Gate. So I went to the Synod office and just got an interview with a Synod executive and had a resume, and the Synod executive looked it over and he said, "Well, I see a lot of journalism here." And well, we've been kicking around the idea of starting a Synod newspaper. So how about if you come and spend your field work getting a Synod newspaper up and going? And it went pretty well, and when I graduated, my first call out of seminary was half-time. So the Synod carved out a little stipend, and I kept doing the Synod newspaper for 3 or 4 years after I graduated from seminary, along with pastoring my first congregation. After Presbyterian reunion and the decision to move the national offices to Louisville, everybody that was on the national staff in either the Northern Stream in New York or the Southern Stream in Atlanta was guaranteed a job on the amalgamated national staff after reunion, but they had to move to Louisville. I will forever be grateful to Alan Kratz, Alan, if you're still out there, who was the news director for the Northern Stream in New York and resigned rather than moving from New York to Louisville. And that left a job vacancy open. The people who put the Presbyterian Church U.S.A. together were very careful in putting together the staff, the national staff of this new denomination. And there were the traditional balances, male, female, lay, clergy, but there was also this Northern Stream, Southern Stream balance that had to be achieved in every shop. And the news director of the Presbyterian Church USA was Marge Carpenter. And Marge was a Southern lay woman. And I was sitting in my office in Oakland, California, and I got this call. "I need me a Yankee preacher. You want to come to work for me?" And that was how I was invited to apply for the job. It was the only time that being a white guy from California, fit the category they were looking for. And I loved being a pastor. I was reluctant to leave the San Francisco Bay Area, but the job was just too good to pass up. And 26 years later, I'm still here. So something that I'd been doing just for the love of it turned into a whole new career. The 1988 General Assembly was my first General Assembly working in the General Assembly newsroom. And it was all typewriters and paper copying. And when you were done with the story, you pulled it out of your typewriter and took it to the copy editor, and they marked it up and gave it back to you, and you typed it all over again. So that is all changed. Today, the Presbyterian News Service is it's all electronic. What has not changed at all is that Presbyterians want to know what their church is doing. We ask Presbyterians to support the work of the church. And the Presbyterian News Service has always believed that, if we're going to expect that support, then we owe it to them to tell them what we're doing with the time, energy, money, and prayers that they give us. In more recent years, we've done a lot more storytelling. People are hungry for good news. They're hungry for ideas. We try to connect Presbyterians through those stories and give them ideas for how their ministry can be more effective. I've always considered our job to communicate news and information about the Presbyterian Church U.S.A. as fairly and as impartially as is humanly possible, and then let Presbyterians draw their own conclusions. What I've learned after 26 years with the Presbyterian News Service is that the institution of the Presbyterian Church is very different from what it was 40 years ago. It's going to be very different 4, 5, 10 years from now. So I try to pay less attention to institutions than to the ways Presbyterians are trying to be faithful. The main thing is that Presbyterians figure out a way to individually and collectively be faithful to the gospel of Jesus Christ in the world. And that's gonna change and evolve over the years. It's changed and evolved over the 40 years that I've been involved. That's one of the reasons why I'm so still excited about the communications ministry of the Presbyterian Church U.S.A. is because we can be in communications that agent that says, hey, there's somebody over here doing this, there's somebody over here doing something like this, and you ought to be talking to each other. And that's going to be the role that the institution of the church plays. Rather than doing things for Presbyterians, it's going to be getting Presbyterians together to do stuff for themselves. Living history is an interesting concept to me. For me, to live history, to be part of living history, is to understand myself as part of God's incarnation of God's world. Like we tell our third graders at Crescent Hill Presbyterian Church, the Bible is the story of God and God's people and their relationship with each other and with the world God created. And we are all part of that story.